The annual Davidson family business meeting always felt more like a medieval court, with my father playing king and my sister Amanda as his chosen heir. The mahogany conference table at Davidson Enterprises headquarters had witnessed 20 years of these gatherings, but this one would be different. And now, my father's voice carried that special tone of disappointment he reserved just for me. Let's address the other matters. Emily, how's your secretarial work going? I suppressed a smile, thinking about the documents being delivered to the building at this very moment. Still at my desk, Dad. Still typing away. Amanda snickered, adjusting her Hermes scarf. At least she's consistent. 5 years at that consulting firm and still answering phones. If they only knew that my consulting firm was actually a shell company through which I'd orchestrated the gradual acquisition of Davidson Enterprises over the past 3 years. While they'd been mocking my desk job, I'd been quietly buying shares, placing allies on the board, and preparing for this exact moment. Really, Emily, my mother sighed, her diamonds catching the morning light. We offered you a proper position here. Junior VP of Operations, fast track to executive leadership. Instead you chose to be, what exactly do you do all day? I manage things, Mom, I said quietly, checking my phone under the table. A message from my CFO flashed. Documents en route. Legal team standing by. Managing coffee runs? Amanda smirked. Or is it spreadsheets now? So ambitious. Dad shuffled his papers, not even bothering to look up. Well, at least you're employed. Though I must say, Emily, your choice to reject our offer still baffles me. Davidson Enterprises is a billion-dollar company. We're leaders in industrial manufacturing. And you chose to be a secretary. I thought about the offshore accounts, shell corporations, and strategic investments I'd managed while they assumed I was filing papers. The billion-dollar company they were so proud of had been hemorrhaging market share for years, vulnerable to exactly the kind of calculated takeover I'd engineered. Speaking of the company, Amanda straightened importantly, I've been working on some exciting new initiatives. As Executive VP, I believe it's time we... A knock at the door interrupted her. My father frowned. No one dared interrupt the annual family meeting. Come in, he barked. His assistant entered, looking nervous. Mr. Davidson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but these just arrived by courier. Marked urgent and confidential. She placed a thick envelope on the table. I recognized my law firm's letterhead. What's this? Dad muttered, reaching for his reading glasses. Some kind of legal notice? Perhaps you should read it carefully, I suggested mildly. It pertains to ownership structure changes. Amanda rolled her eyes. Honestly, Emily, what would you know about ownership structures? You're a secretary. Actually, I smiled slightly, I know quite a bit about them. Especially when it comes to Davidson Enterprises. My father had gone very still, his face paling as he read the documents. This must be a mistake. What is it, Robert? My mother asked, reaching for the papers. According to this, his voice shook. Majority ownership of Davidson Enterprises has been transferred to Phoenix Global Holdings. Amanda grabbed the documents. That's impossible. We own this company. We control all the shares. Not anymore, I said quietly, straightening in my chair. Phoenix Global has been acquiring shares through various subsidiaries for the past 3 years. As of this morning, we own 80% of Davidson Enterprises. But Phoenix Global is that mysterious investment firm that's been revolutionizing old industries, Amanda protested. Their CEO is some reclusive genius who never appears in public. Until now, I replied, standing up. Though you might know me better as your secretary's sister. Amanda's designer purse slipped from her lap, hitting the floor with a thud that echoed through the suddenly silent room. Sometimes the best position from which to take control isn't in the executive suite. It's behind a desk where no one thinks to look. The conference room had frozen in a tableau of shock. My father's reading glasses dangled from nerveless fingers, my mother's perfectly manicured hand clutched her signature pearls, and Amanda's face had lost all its carefully applied color. This is a joke, Amanda finally managed. It has to be. You're a secretary. You make coffee runs. You run a global investment firm that specializes in acquiring and modernizing traditional industries? I finished for her, pulling up Phoenix Global's portfolio on the room's presentation screen. Actually, Davidson Enterprises is one of our smaller acquisitions. The screen filled with company names, properties, and assets, billions in holdings across multiple industries. My father's eyes widened as he recognized several of his biggest competitors among them. While you were busy mocking my desk job, I continued calmly, I was building this. Every coffee run you laughed about was actually a meeting with investors. Those spreadsheets you dismissed? Acquisition strategies. My phone buzzed, a message from my executive team. Press release ready. Stock market notified. Trading halt in place for the announcement. But I'm executive VP, Amanda stammered. I'm next in line too. Not anymore, I cut her off. Phoenix Global doesn't believe in hereditary leadership. All executive positions will be reviewed for actual merit, not family connections. My father finally found his voice. You've been planning this? All these years when we thought you were just what, Dad? Just wasting my potential? Just embarrassing the family name? Just being a secretary? I pulled up more financial data. Look at Davidson Enterprises' performance under your leadership. Declining market share, outdated technology, falling profits. The only thing keeping your stock price up was our strategic buying. My mother reached for the ownership documents with trembling hands. Phoenix Global. All those news stories about their mysterious Sue. That was you? His mom. All those society events where you apologized for my modest career? I probably owned the buildings they were held in. Amanda was frantically scrolling through her phone, her face growing paler as she found article after article about Phoenix Global's success. Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Financial Times. How did we not know? Because you never asked, I said simply. You were too busy assuming you knew my worth to actually discover it. The boardroom doors opened again, admitting my real executive team. Sarah, my COO, stepped forward with more documents. Ms. Davidson, she said formally, the press is gathering downstairs. Would you like to make the announcement, or should we proceed with the prepared statement? Amanda's head snapped up. Ms. Davidson? They report to you. Everyone reports to me now, I confirmed. Including you, assuming you keep your position after our performance review. My father stood up suddenly, his business instincts finally kicking in. Now see here, young lady. You can't just walk in and take over. We built this company. Actually, grandfather built it, I corrected him. You inherited it and nearly ran it into the ground. Check the quarterly reports you never bothered to read carefully. Without our investment, you'd be facing bankruptcy within 18 months. The stock ticker on the wall had frozen, waiting for the ownership announcement. My father's eyes kept darting to it, watching his legacy hang in digital limbo. The press release goes live in 5 minutes, Sarah announced. Trading will resume afterward. Our analysts predict a significant jump in share price once the market learns about Phoenix's involvement. Of course it will jump, Amanda said bitterly. Everyone knows Phoenix Global turns companies around. We just didn't know it was you. I smiled slightly. Amazing what one can accomplish from behind a desk, isn't it? The corporate headquarters lobby had filled with reporters, their cameras aimed at the entrance as word of the acquisition spread. Through the boardroom's glass walls, we could see employees gathering, whispering, wondering what the announcement would mean for their futures. Your severance package is generous, I told my father, sliding another document across the table. Though given the company's performance under your leadership, it's more than you deserve. Severance, he choked. You're firing me? Retiring you, I corrected. Immediately. The shareholders deserve better than nepotism and outdated management styles. Amanda jumped up, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor. You can't do this. I've spent my whole life preparing to run this company. No, I said quietly. You spent your whole life expecting to run it. There's a difference. When was the last time you actually reviewed our manufacturing processes? Met with line workers? Understood our technology gaps? She fell silent and I continued, while you were planning your corner office decoration, I was learning every aspect of this business. From the ground up. Like a secretary would. My mother, ever the social survivor, tried a different approach. Darling, surely we can discuss this as a family? Perhaps over dinner? The country club is serving. I own the country club, I interrupted. Bought it last year when membership was declining. Amazing how many business deals happen on golf courses. The blood drained from her face as she realized just how complete my takeover was. Not just of their company but of their entire social world. My phone buzzed again. Stock market responding to announcement. Davidson Enterprises up 45% on Phoenix acquisition news. Your shares are worth more now, I noted, watching the ticker resume. You should thank me. I've just saved your retirement funds. Amanda was still staring at her phone, reading headlines about Phoenix Global's latest conquest. All those board meetings, she muttered. Those strategic planning sessions, you knew everything we were doing. While you never bothered to learn what I was doing, I confirmed. Too busy making coffee jokes to notice I was buying your company one share at a time. Sarah stepped forward again. Miss Davidson, the press is waiting. And the Tokyo market opens in an hour. Of course, I stood, straightening my jacket. Time to introduce Davidson Enterprises' new leadership to the world. Wait, my father called out desperately. What about the family legacy? Your grandfather built this. And I'm saving it, I cut him off. From your mismanagement and Amanda's inexperience. The Davidson name will continue, but under competent leadership. The screens around us filled with breaking news. Phoenix Global acquires Davidson Enterprises. Mysterio revealed as founder's granddaughter. Wall Street stunned by family power shift. Emily, my mother tried one last time, we only wanted what was best for you. All those times we suggested different career paths. You mean all those times you told me I was wasting my potential? When you mocked my job, dismissed my choices, and treated me like a failure. I checked my watch. Those suggestions have aged about as well as Dad's management style. The press was getting restless downstairs. Through the windows we could see camera flashes intensifying. One last thing, I said, pausing at the door. Amanda, you might want to update your resume. Phoenix Global has very high standards for its executives. Being someone's daughter isn't enough. But I'm qualified, she protested. I have an MBA. So do thousands of others. What they don't have is your record of arrogance and nepotism. Clean out your office by tomorrow. My father slumped in his chair, decades of authority draining away. All this time, while we thought you were just answering phones. I was answering something else, I replied. The question of whether success comes from titles or talent. I think we have our answer. The elevator opened onto the lobby where reporters surged forward. Miss Davidson, is it true you acquired your family's company while working as their secretary? Was this revenge? A hostile takeover? I stepped up to the microphones, thinking of all the family meetings where I'd been dismissed, all the potential I'd been told I was wasting. This isn't about revenge, I answered clearly. It's about competence replacing complacency. Merit overtaking nepotism. And yes, I smiled slightly, it's about a secretary showing exactly what she can do from behind a desk. Upstairs, through the glass walls, I could see my family still frozen in the boardroom, their world transformed by the daughter they'd underestimated. They had mocked my job at a family meeting. I had taken their jobs at a shareholders' meeting. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with quarterly reports and ownership documents. They had called me just a secretary. I had become their boss instead. And as the cameras flashed and the stock price soared, I couldn't help but think. Sometimes the most powerful position isn't in the corner office. Sometimes it's behind the desk where no one thinks to look. Until it's too late. Through the boardroom's glass walls, we could see the media circus gathering in the lobby below. Reporters jostled for position, their cameras aimed at the entrance as word of the acquisition spread like wildfire through the financial district. Your retirement package is quite generous, I said, sliding another document across the mahogany table to my father. Given the company's performance under your leadership, you might consider it a parting gift. Retirement. The word seemed to age him instantly. You're forcing me out? Giving you a graceful exit, I corrected. The press release will cite strategic restructuring and generational transition. Unless you'd prefer I detail the company's decline under your management. Amanda leaped up, her Louboutins clicking sharply on the marble floor. This is ridiculous. I've spent my entire life preparing to run this company. I have an MBA from Harvard. No, I replied calmly. You spent your life expecting to run it. There's a difference. When was the last time you visited our factory floor? Spoke to our line workers? Actually understood our production processes? Her silence was deafening. That's what I thought, I continued, pulling up more data on the screens. While you were planning your corner office decor, I was learning every aspect of this business. Like a secretary would. My mother, ever the social strategist, tried a different approach. Darling, surely we can discuss this as a family? Over dinner perhaps? The Madison Club is serving. I own the Madison Club, I interrupted. Acquired it last year when membership was declining. Fascinating how many business deals happen over golf and cocktails. The blood drained from her face as she realized just how complete my takeover was. Not just their company but their entire social world. My phone buzzed with updates. Stock market responding to announcement. Davidson Enterprises up 60% on Phoenix acquisition news. Your personal shares are worth significantly more now, I noted, watching the ticker climb. You should thank me. I've just salvaged your retirement funds. Sarah, my COO, stepped forward with more documents. Ms. Davidson, the international markets open in an hour. Tokyo is particularly interested in your statement. Of course, I nodded. Time to introduce Davidson Enterprises' new direction to the world. Wait, my father called out desperately. What about our family legacy? Your grandfather built this. And I'm saving it, I cut him off. From your mismanagement and Amanda's inexperience. The Davidson name will continue, but under competent leadership. The screens around us filled with breaking news. Phoenix Global acquires Davidson Enterprises. Secretary revealed as billion-dollar CEO. Wall Street stunned by family power shift. Amanda was frantically scrolling through her phone, her perfectly manicured fingers trembling. This can't be happening. I'm Executive VP. I have connections, experience. You have a title granted by nepotism, I corrected her. Speaking of which, you'll want to clear out your office by tomorrow. Phoenix Global has strict policies about merit-based leadership. You can't fire me, she protested. I'm family. Exactly why you need to go. This company will be run on competence, not DNA. My father had aged years in minutes, his authority draining away with each passing second. All this time, while we thought you were just answering phones. 5 years ago, I sat at my parents' dining room table, trying to explain my vision for the future of renewable energy. My laptop was open to a carefully prepared presentation, financial projections meticulously laid out, market analysis thoroughly researched. Solar power isn't just about panels anymore, I explained eagerly. It's about smart grids, AI-driven optimization, seamless integration with existing infrastructure. My company, Solar Tech Solutions, could revolutionize Dash. Enough, Sophia. My mother cut me off with a wave of her manicured hand. This startup fantasy of yours needs to stop. You have a perfectly good job at Anderson Energy. Why throw it away on some pipe dream? I looked around the table at my family's dismissive faces. My father was barely paying attention, more interested in his phone than my presentation. My older brother David, the successful investment banker, smirked behind his wine glass. It's not a fantasy, I insisted. I've already developed prototype software that can increase solar grid efficiency by 30%. I just need initial funding to dash. To waste more time and money? David interrupted. Come on, sis. You really think you, an entry-level project manager, can revolutionize an entire industry? Leave energy to the big players. They know what they're doing. I closed my laptop slowly, a quiet determination settling over me. The big players are stuck in the past. They're so focused on protecting their old revenue streams that they can't see the future. The future. My father finally looked up from his phone. The future is natural gas and oil. That's where the real money is. Always has been, always will be. And what about climate change? I challenged. What about sustainability? David rolled his eyes. Oh God, not the environment again. This is business, Sophia. Real business. Not some green tech fantasy. Speaking of real business, my mother added, Peter McMahon's son is back in town. He's a junior partner at Wellington Capital now. I could arrange a dinner. I stood up, gathering my things. I'm not interested in being set up with some finance bro, Mom. I'm interested in building something meaningful. Meaningful doesn't pay the bills, my father said dismissively. Stick to your day job. At least Anderson Energy offers good benefits. As I drove home that night, their words echoed in my head. But instead of discouraging me, they fueled a fire that had been building for years. I'd spent my time at Anderson Energy learning everything I could about the industry's weaknesses, its blind spots, its desperate need for innovation. The next morning, I submitted my resignation. You're making a huge mistake, my supervisor warned. Nobody leaves Anderson Energy for a startup. But I wasn't nobody. I was someone who saw what they couldn't or wouldn't see. I had saved every penny from my corporate job, lived in a tiny studio apartment, drove a used car, and avoided expensive habits. Combined with my software patents and some careful investments, I had enough runway for 18 months. My best friend Maya, a brilliant software engineer I'd met at MIT, joined as my CTO. We rented a small office in a rundown building on the edge of the tech district. The rent was cheap, the infrastructure barely adequate, but it was ours. Your family still thinks you're crazy? Maya asked one night as we worked late, surrounded by empty coffee cups and whiteboards covered in code. They don't think about it at all, I replied, not looking up from my computer. They're too busy pretending I'm going through a phase. Those first months were brutal. We worked 18-hour days, survived on ramen and determination, and poured everything we had into developing our core technology. An AI-driven system that could optimize renewable energy distribution with unprecedented efficiency. My family's dismissal continued at every holiday gathering. Still playing with your little company? David would ask, flashing his Rolex as he reached for the wine. When are you going to get serious about your career? My mother would sigh, sharing knowing looks with her country club friends. I stopped attending family dinners. I had more important things to do. 1 year into our venture, we had our first breakthrough. Our AI system caught the attention of a small but innovative utility company in California. They agreed to a pilot program, implementing our software in a regional grid. The results exceeded even our expectations. Energy efficiency improved by 40%. Distribution costs dropped by half. The utility company immediately signed a full contract. So I kept our success quiet. SolarTech Solutions operated through subsidiaries and holding companies, our ownership structure carefully obscured. To the energy industry, we were just another promising tech startup. To my family, I was still their foolish daughter chasing impossible dreams. Then came the Texas blackouts. As traditional power companies struggled with failing infrastructure, our AI system helped our clients maintain stability and service. The industry started paying attention. Did you see this company, SolarTech Solutions? I overheard David telling our father during a rare family visit. Their stock jumped 300% after the blackouts. We should look into investing. I hid my smile behind my coffee cup. 3 years after that fateful dinner where they dismissed my fantasy, SolarTech Solutions had become one of the fastest-growing companies in renewable energy. We had contracts with utilities across the country, a growing international presence, and a reputation for being light years ahead of traditional energy companies. My mother still sent me job listings for reliable corporate positions. Then the energy market shifted dramatically. Oil prices soared, natural gas became politically complicated, and suddenly every major player was scrambling to establish renewable credentials, including Anderson Energy. I was reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office, a far cry from our first rundown space, when Maya burst in, her eyes wide with excitement. "You're not going to believe this," she said, dropping a file on my desk. "Anderson Energy just reached out. They want to discuss a potential partnership." I opened the file, scanning the proposal. They were desperate. Their stock was tanking, their traditional energy assets were becoming liabilities, and they needed a fast track into renewables. "They have no idea, do they?" Maya asked, grinning. "That they're begging for help from the same person they forced out?" "No," I replied, remembering my supervisor's warning about making a huge mistake. "But they're about to find out." Later that week, my phone rang. It was David. "Sophia, we need to talk. It's about Anderson Energy. Their stock is in free fall. Dad's investment portfolio is heavily exposed and he hesitated. "And we heard rumors that SolarTech Solutions might be interested in acquiring some of their assets. I know it's a long shot, but do you have any contacts there? Anyone you could put in a good word with? I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the city skyline from my office, my real office, not the entry-level cubicle they thought I still occupied. Actually, I said slowly, I might be able to help. Why don't you and Dad come by my office tomorrow? We can discuss it in person. Your office? At Anderson? No, I smiled. At Solar Tech Solutions. Top floor of the Phoenix Tower. You can't miss it, our logo's on the building. The silence that followed was worth every moment of doubt, every dismissive comment, every condescending smile I'd endured. Sophia, David finally managed, his voice weak. Are you saying? I'm saying be here at 9 tomorrow morning. And David? Bring Dad's complete investment portfolio. We have a lot to discuss. I hung up and turned to the wall of awards behind my desk, including Energy Innovation of the Year and Top 40 Under 40 in Business Leadership. Awards they'd never bothered to ask about, achievements they'd never thought to celebrate. Tomorrow they would finally understand exactly what my fantasy had become. And I would decide whether their investment portfolio was worth saving. The next morning, I arrived early to appreciate the moment that was about to unfold. The Phoenix Tower's top floor offered a commanding view of the city, including Anderson Energy's aging headquarters in the distance. How fitting. Your father and brother are in the lobby, Maya reported, barely containing her glee. You should see them, they look completely lost. Security had to verify their appointment 3 times. I smiled, adjusting my position behind my desk. Give them the tour first. I want them to understand exactly what they're walking into. Through the security feeds, I watched Maya lead them through our R&D department, past walls of patents and awards, through our state-of-the-art development center where engineers worked on next-generation renewable technology. David's swagger diminished with each step. My father's face grew increasingly pale. As you can see, Maya explained professionally, Solar Tech Solutions isn't just a software company. We're redefining the entire energy sector. Our AI systems are currently managing power distribution for 30% of the country's renewable grid. 30%? My father muttered. That's impossible. The technical requirements alone are well within our capabilities, Maya finished. Would you like to see our real-time monitoring center? By the time they reached my office, both men looked shell-shocked. They stood in the doorway, taking in the expansive space with its floor-to-ceiling windows and commanding view. Please sit down, I said, not looking up from the tablet where I was reviewing their investment portfolio. We have a lot to discuss. They sat. David tugged at his tie, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. My father couldn't stop staring at the wall of awards behind me, particularly the Energy Innovation of the Year trophy with my name prominently displayed. Interesting reading, I said finally, setting down the tablet. Dad, you've got nearly 60% of your portfolio in traditional energy stocks. Heavy exposure to Anderson Energy in particular. Not very diversified. Sophia, he started, then stopped, seemingly at a loss for words. You're the CEO, David blurted out. Of Solar Tech Solutions. All this time, I agreed, while you were mocking my startup fantasy, I was building the future you couldn't see coming. Why didn't you tell us? My father demanded. Would you have believed me? Or would you have tried to take control, to do things the traditional way? I stood up, walking to the window. Besides, you never asked. Too busy trying to set me up with investment bankers and sending me job listings for middle management positions. David leaned forward. Look, we were wrong, okay? We didn't understand what you were building. But now we need your help. Do you? I turned back to face them. Or do you just need Solar Tech's help? What's the difference? My father asked. The difference is that one acknowledges you failed me as a family, while the other just wants a business bailout. They exchanged uncomfortable glances. Anderson Energy's stock dropped another 15% this morning, I continued, pulling up the market data on my office's wall screen. Your investment portfolio has lost nearly 40% of its value in the last 6 months. And that's just the beginning. What do you mean? My father's voice shook slightly. I pressed a button, changing the display to our market analysis. Renewable energy will dominate the market within 5 years. Traditional energy companies that don't adapt will fail. Anderson Energy is already obsolete, They just don't know it yet. But their partnership proposal, David interjected. Surely that shows they're trying to adapt? I laughed softly. That proposal? It's worthless. They're a decade behind in technology, their infrastructure is crumbling, and their leadership doesn't understand the first thing about modern energy distribution. Then why did you agree to meet with us? My father demanded. Because despite everything, you're my family. And unlike you, I don't believe in excluding family from opportunities, as long as they're willing to learn, to adapt, to admit their mistakes. What are you saying? I sat back down, folding my hands on my desk. I'm saying I'll help, but on my terms. First, you'll both sign NDAs. Then I'll show you exactly how the energy market is going to change in the next 5 years. If you're willing to listen, really listen, I'll help you restructure your investments before it's too late. And Anderson Energy? David asked. Is not worth saving, I said firmly. But I might consider acquiring some of their renewable patents and key personnel. At a significant discount, of course. My father stood up abruptly, pacing the office. All these years, he muttered. All these years we thought you were throwing your career away, and instead I was building something revolutionary, I finished. Something that could have benefited our whole family if you bothered to understand it. Can we? He hesitated. Can we tell your mother about this? I smiled. Oh, Mom already knows. She called this morning after seeing SolarTech's CEO profile in Business Weekly. She's probably still crying into her coffee at the country club. David actually laughed at that. God, all those investment bankers she tried to set you up with are probably trying to get meetings with me now, I agreed. Funny how that works. Just then Meyer appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt, but the Anderson Energy executive team is here for their meeting. I checked my watch. Right on time. Dad, David, would you like to stay? See how real business is done in the modern era. They exchanged glances, then nodded. I gestured for them to move to the conference area of my office while Maya showed in the Anderson team, including my former supervisor, whose face went white when he saw me. Welcome to SolarTech Solutions, I said pleasantly. I believe you have a proposal for us? The next hour was a masterclass in modern business negotiation. I systematically dismantled their partnership proposal, exposed their technical weaknesses, and laid out exactly how far behind the curve they really were. So you see, I concluded, your company isn't in a position to be proposing partnerships. You're in a position to be asking for rescue. This is outrageous, their CEO sputtered. Anderson Energy has been a market leader for 50 years. And Blockbuster was a market leader until Netflix came along, I replied calmly. The energy market is transforming. You can either adapt or die. Your choice. After they left, thoroughly humbled, my father approached me slowly. I've never seen anything like that, he admitted. You didn't just understand their business. You knew it better than they did. That's because I spent years studying exactly what they were doing wrong, I explained. While they were busy protecting their old business model, I was building the new one. We really messed up, didn't we? David said quietly. Not believing in you. Yes, you did. I turned to face them both. But here's the thing about the future. It doesn't care about the past. It only cares about who's ready for what comes next. Are you ready to learn? They nodded, humbled but eager. Over the next few months, I taught my family everything they'd refused to learn before, about renewable energy, about technological innovation, about the real future of business. My father restructured his portfolio under my guidance. David eventually joined SolarTech's business development team, starting at a junior level and working his way up properly. My mother took longer to come around, but the first time she saw me featured on CNBC as the future of energy, her resistance crumbled. I was so wrong, she admitted over dinner one night. All those years pushing you towards safe choices, traditional paths. The safest choice, I told her, is betting on yourself. Everything else is just hiding from change. 1 year later, Anderson Energy filed for bankruptcy. SolarTech Solutions acquired their valuable assets at pennies on the dollar. The industry called it a masterclass in modern business strategy. I called it vindication. The fantasy they'd dismissed had become the reality they couldn't ignore. And the daughter they'd underestimated had become the visionary they now turned to for guidance. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's proving yourself so completely right that they have no choice but to acknowledge it. My startup fantasy had become their lifeline to the future. And I had become exactly who I always knew I could be. The first time my family told me art was worthless, I was 12. I'd spent weeks working on a painting for my father's birthday, a detailed cityscape of Manhattan, where he dreamed of opening his next law office. He took one look at it and said, "Nice hobby, Olivia, but it's time to focus on real studies. No one makes money from art." 15 years later, I stood in my private studio in Chelsea staring at the same painting. It hung alongside my newest work, the collection that would debut at tomorrow's gallery opening. A collection nobody in my family knew about because I'd been showing under a pseudonym for the past 5 years. My phone buzzed. Mom's daily guilt trip right on schedule. "Darling, Thompson and Associates is still holding that junior associate position for you. Your law degree is going to waste while you play with paints." My law degree. The one they'd forced me to get instead of going to art school. The one I'd earned while secretly taking night classes at the Art Students League, learning techniques that would later become my signature style. "Still not interested, Mom," I texted back. "At least your sister is making us proud," came the swift reply. "Caroline just made partner at her firm. When are you going to grow up and join the real world?" I looked around my studio, 5,000 square feet of prime Manhattan real estate, paid for with the proceeds from my last 3 shows. The real world was doing just fine, thanks. "Some of us have different dreams," I wrote back, then silenced my phone. My assistant Julia poked her head in. The gallery called. "They're ready for the installation whenever you are, Ms. Rivers." Ms. Rivers. My professional name taken from the city rivers I loved to paint. Only a handful of people knew that the reclusive artist Isabella Rivers, whose urban landscapes sold for millions, was actually Olivia Chin, the disappointing daughter of New York's most prestigious legal family. "Thanks, Julia. Is everything set for tomorrow night?" She nodded, consulting her tablet. "All the major collectors confirmed. The waiting list for the opening is over 300 people. And..." She hesitated. "Your family's law firm requested tickets. Apparently they represent one of the collectors." I smiled, remembering all the times they'd mocked my art. The dinners where they'd lectured me about wasting my potential. The constant comparisons to Caroline, the successful daughter. "Give them VIP passes," I said. "Front row seats for the big reveal." My family had no idea that I'd been building my career in secret, showing my work under a pseudonym while they thought I was finding myself. They assumed I was living off my trust fund, probably struggling to make rent in some dingy apartment. They didn't know about the studio in Chelsea or the loft in Tribeca, or the beach house in the Hamptons. They'd never seen the magazine features about the mysterious Isabella Rivers, whose paintings of urban landscapes had revolutionized contemporary art. Tomorrow night that would change. I turned back to my latest piece. A massive canvas capturing the essence of New York at twilight, buildings bleeding into sky in my signature style. The technique I'd developed had caught the art world's attention 5 years ago. Critics called it revolutionary. Collectors called it genius. My family called my painting a waste of time. "Your sister argues cases before the Supreme Court," Dad had said at our last family dinner. "And you dabble in watercolors." I hadn't bothered correcting him, telling him that my dabbling had already earned me more than his law firm made in a year. Let them think what they wanted. Tomorrow they'd learn the truth. Julia returned with another update. "The Times wants to do a pre-opening interview. They're still hoping Isabella Rivers will finally show her face." For 5 years I'd maintained my privacy, never appearing in public as Isabella. My agent handled all the sales. My work spoke for itself. But tomorrow night at my biggest show yet, Isabella Rivers would finally be revealed. My phone buzzed again. "Caroline, this time, Mom's worried about you. Time to stop playing artist and get a real job. My firm needs paralegals." I let out a laugh that echoed through my studio. Caroline, who thought being a law firm partner was the height of success. Caroline, who had no idea her little sister's paintings hung in museums. The last family gathering had been particularly brutal. Caroline had just won a big case, and the celebration dinner turned into another lecture about my life choices. "I just don't understand," Mom had sighed, swirling her wine. "You had such potential. Now you waste your days with paint and canvas while your sister changes the world." Dad had chimed in. Do you know how many strings I pulled to get you into law school? And you throw it all away for art. I'd sat there quietly letting them talk, knowing what they didn't. That my last painting had sold for more than Caroline's yearly partner salary. That museums were competing to host my shows. That the very galleries they name-dropped at parties were begging for my work. Now, standing in my studio surrounded by the collection that would finally reveal my identity, I thought about all the times they'd dismissed my passion. The art classes they'd forbidden. The supplies they'd hidden. The dreams they'd tried to squash. Julia appeared again. The gallery just sent over the price list for approval. I glanced at the numbers. My smaller pieces started at $500,000. The centerpiece, my Twilight New York canvas, was listed at $2.5 million. Perfect, I said, thinking of Caroline's proud announcement about her six-figure partner salary. And the guest list? My family's all confirmed through their firm. Front row seats as requested. I stepped back, taking in my collection. Each piece represented a moment they'd tried to discourage me. The cityscape from childhood. The river at dawn I'd painted instead of studying for the bar exam. The storm over Manhattan from the night I'd finally moved out, choosing art over law. Should I have their names on the VIP list? Julia asked. No. Let them check in as representatives of their firm. I want them to experience the full impact when they realize who Isabella Rivers really is. My phone buzzed one more time. A family group text from Caroline. Guess who's representing the mysterious artist Isabella Rivers' biggest collector? Finally got tickets to her reveal show tomorrow. Can't wait to see what the art world's latest sensation looks like. I smiled, picturing their faces when they realized the latest sensation was the daughter they'd dismissed for years. The caterers need the final count, Julia said. Tell them to add an extra bottle of champagne to my private reserve, I replied. I think I'm going to need it. The gallery hummed with anticipation. New York's elite art crowd mingled with celebrities and collectors, all waiting for the mysterious Isabella Rivers to finally show her face. Through the security cameras in my private room above the gallery, I watched my family arrive. Caroline came first, wearing her court suit-like armor, already networking with potential clients. Mom and Dad followed, looking important in designer outfits that probably cost less than a single brushstroke on my smallest canvas. 5 minutes until the reveal, Julia murmured, adjusting my designer gown, a far cry from the paint-splattered jeans my family was used to seeing me in. I touched the small cityscape necklace I wore, the only piece of art my family had ever supported. Grandma had given it to me before she died, whispering, "Don't let them dim your light, my darling artist." Ms. Rivers. The gallery owner knocked softly. Everyone's in position. Your family is in the front row as requested. I took one last look in the mirror. Gone was the struggling artist my family pitied. In her place stood a woman whose work commanded millions, whose name made headlines, whose talent had proven every doubter wrong. Ready, I said. The gallery lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the podium where the owner began his introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, for 5 years, the art world has wondered about the true identity of Isabella Rivers. Her unique vision of urban landscapes has revolutionized contemporary art. Her work hangs in major museums worldwide. And tonight she has chosen to finally step into the light. Through the camera feed I watched my family's faces. They looked bored, probably thinking about billable hours they could be logging instead of attending an art show. Please welcome, the owner continued, the artist who has captured the soul of our city, Isabella Rivers. I descended the curved staircase, my dress catching the light. The crowd gasped, partly for dramatic effect, partly because no one had expected Isabella Rivers to be so young. Then I reached the bottom step, turned toward the front row and smiled directly at my family. The recognition took a moment. Caroline's eyes widened first. Then Mom's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. Dad's face went from confused to shocked to pale. Thank you all for coming, I said into the microphone, my voice carrying across the now silent gallery. Art has always been my truest voice, even when others tried to silence it. The audience applauded, unaware of the drama unfolding in the front row. Critics rushed forward with questions about my technique, my inspiration, my decision to reveal my identity. Ms. Rivers, one called out, Your latest piece is already bid up to $2 million. Did you expect this level of success? I looked directly at my father. Success comes in many forms. Some measure it in billable hours. I measure it in brushstrokes. The evening became a blur of interviews and congratulations. Collectors bid against each other for pieces that had been painted in secret while my family thought I was wasting time. Museums' representatives negotiated for exhibitions. Finally, Caroline pushed through the crowd, her lawyer face on. Ms. Rivers, we need to talk. About what? I asked coolly. About how art isn't a real career. About how I'm wasting my potential. Or about how your firm's client wants to buy my painting for $2 million. We didn't know. Clearly. I signed another catalog for a collector. How's that partner salary looking now, sis? Mom and Dad hovered nearby, clearly unsure how to handle this new reality where their unsuccessful daughter was the star of the evening. Darling, Mom tried. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have listened? Or would you have tried to take control, like you did with every other aspect of my life? We were trying to protect you, Dad said. The art world is so uncertain. I gestured around the gallery. Does this look uncertain to you? My smallest piece here is worth more than your monthly law firm profits. But you never showed us your work, Mom protested weakly. I showed you everything when I was younger, I corrected her. You just never saw it. You were too busy pushing me toward law school, toward your definition of success. The gallery owner approached with an urgent expression. Ms. Rivers, the MoMA curator, would like to discuss a solo exhibition. Of course, I smiled. Excuse me, family. Some of us have real work to do. The next morning my show made headlines everywhere. Mystery artist revealed. Legal family's black sheep is art world's golden child. Isabella Rivers. The $20 million secret. My phone exploded with messages from family members who'd dismissed my art for years. Cousins who'd laughed at my paintings now wanted commissions. Aunts and uncles who'd sided with my parents suddenly remembered they'd always supported my creativity. Caroline's message was the most interesting. We need to talk about representing you legally. Your art career clearly requires proper management. I had Julia send her a formal response. Ms. Rivers is already represented by the top art law firm in New York. But thank you for your interest. Mom tried next. Darling, we should host a family dinner to celebrate your success. I'll invite all our society friends. Sorry, I texted back. Too busy preparing for my MoMA exhibition. Dad's message was the most surprising. I still have that cityscape you painted me for my birthday. I keep it in my office. I went to his law firm that afternoon, curious. There it was, hanging behind his desk. My first serious painting, the one he'd dismissed all those years ago. When did you frame it? I asked from the doorway. He jumped, turning to face me. Right after you moved out. I realized it might be the last piece of you I'd have. And now I realize it might be worth millions, he tried to joke. That one's not for sale, I said quietly. Some art is too personal to price. He nodded, understanding something for the first time. I was wrong, Olivia. About everything. Yes, you were. I studied the painting, seeing how far my technique had come. But you taught me something valuable. Success is the best revenge. Are we? He hesitated. Are we still family? That depends, I replied. Can you accept that your daughter is an artist, not a lawyer? That my success came from following my dreams, not yours? The silence stretched between us, filled with years of disapproval and dismissal. Your newest piece, he said finally. The Twilight Cityscape. It's extraordinary. It's sold, I told him. For $2.3 million, actually. A record for a contemporary urban landscape. He sat heavily in his chair. More than our firm makes in a month. Success comes in many forms, Dad. You just have to open your eyes to see it. I left him there, staring at my childhood painting, and went back to my studio. I had a museum exhibition to prepare for. The next few months transformed my family dynamics completely. Caroline stopped bragging about her partner salary when she realized my monthly art sales exceeded her yearly income. Mom's society friends now bragged about knowing the famous Isabella Rivers, though Mom had to admit she'd never actually been to my studio. I maintained my boundaries, focusing on my work while letting them adjust to the new reality. They weren't invited to my private showings or studio sessions, but they could attend public events, just like anyone else who had doubted Isabella Rivers. 1 year after my revelation, I opened my own gallery in Chelsea. The centerpiece was a new collection called Silenced Voices, paintings representing every time my family had tried to stifle my art. The show sold out in hours, breaking records for a contemporary collection. Caroline came to the opening looking uncomfortable in the art crowd. "I have to admit," she said, watching a collector write a 7-figure check for one of my pieces, "you proved us all wrong." "That wasn't my goal," I replied, signing another catalog. "I just proved myself right." Now when my family brags about their successful daughters, they have to mention both, the lawyer and the artist, the one who followed their path and the one who blazed her own. And in my father's office, that childhood cityscape still hangs behind his desk. Not because it's worth millions now, but because it reminds him that sometimes the greatest success comes from letting go of your expectations and letting talent speak for itself. I still paint every day, but now I do it in a light-filled studio overlooking the city I love to capture. My work sells for prices that make my family's legal fees look like pocket change. Museums worldwide display my pieces. But my favorite painting? It's still that first cityscape, the one that taught me sometimes you have to believe in your art even when no one else does. Sometimes the most valuable masterpiece isn't the one that sells for millions. It's the one that shows you who you really are, even when everyone else tries to paint a different picture.